Okay, we're rolling, and I'm going to be illustrating the use of Packet Tracer with this first lab for you Cisco Cohort 1 Networking Essentials group. And this is a lab where we're going to connect a PCA and a PCB to a switch and test network connectivity and see if we can ping back and forth between them. Okay, hang loose here, and I'm going to bring this up on the screen, and we'll be able to do this. Okay, so here we have Packet Tracer, and there's nothing in there, and so I'm going to put a switch in here. So by default here, if you click on the switch in the bottom left-hand corner, we're going to use the 2960 switch, and we just pull it up in the topology. And let's see if he's going to allow me to be able to actually configure this so it has the proper switch name. So I'm going to call it S1 like he has in the lab. So S1. And I'll pull two PCs in there. So here there's a picture in devices here. We talked about end devices and intermediate devices. Switches are intermediate devices. They make path determination decisions. End devices are things like PCs and things that start or end the flow of data. So I'm going to click on here. I'm going to drag two PCs in the topology that sort of look like the way it's arranged in the lab report. And then I'll click on each one of them and make them their configuration look like it is in the diagram. So this is going to be PC-A, and then the other one will be PC-B. And let's make a connection between these devices so that they're like what's in the laboratory environment. So I'm going to click on the red jagged lightning bolt connections icon, and then choose the solid black line to simulate a connection that we would normally use with standard network wires, like standard Ethernet cables. So PCA is specified to plug from his Ethernet connection into port number 6. And PCB is going to be specified to be connected from his Ethernet connection to port number 1. So those are connected now, and then we're going to be able to go through and configure those devices. Those devices are IP addresses that are specified in there. So in the lab, he says something about setting up the topology. We're going to cable the devices together. We've done this essentially. We powered on the devices by putting them in Packet Tracer. We've connected the PCs to the switch. And now we're going to go to part 2 on page 2 of the lab, where we're going to configure our hosts. Now, the lab assumes you're using a Windows 10 PC. If you come and do it in the real lab, it's going to match that exactly. So in our Packet Tracer simulation of PCs, we're going to use a similar scheme to specify certain IP addresses. So I'll click on PCA and configure it first. And I'm going to click on the fast Ethernet link. And I'm going to set it for a particular IP address. And he's supposed to be 192.168.1.10. And just like on a real PC, when you press your tab key, it'll fill in the subnet mask with the correct value, 255.255.255. Okay, so that's configured. I'll go to the desktop and we'll be ready to test that out in just a minute. Now I'm going to go to PCB and configure the same thing on him. So I click on the Fast Ethernet tab and put in PCB's address, which was, just checking here, 1.11. Let's see, 192.168.1.11. Hit the tab key. It'll fill that out for you automatically. Now let's go to his desktop and go to the command prompt. Okay, so that completes the configuration of the two PCs. And then what he has to do is verify the configuration from the command prompt. And so this will sort of work here in Packet Tracer. I'll go back to PCA. I think we're supposed to be at PCA first. So I'll go to PCA. See if I can expand this little thing here. And we're going to type IP country. And in these tells us that our IP address is set to 192.168.1.10. That's proper. Now I'm allowed to do IP country /all, and it tells us what our MAC address is. Okay, so it does that properly. let's check our configuration on PCB and make sure that that took properly as well. So I'll go to the command prompt on PCB and type ipconfig. And let me expand it a little bit where we can see it. And it's proper. It's 192.168.1.11 and 255.255.255.255. Okay, well, let's try a ping now. Let's go back to our PCA. And as you recall, we were 192.168.1.1. I should be able to ping 192.168.1.11, which is the second PC. Oh, it's working just fine. It worked successfully. Okay, let's double check this, and we'll go to PCB and go to his command prompt. I'll blow it up here a little bit so it's a little better. And let's ping that PCA, 192.168.1.10. And I can ping PCA from PCB as well. So the ping results should be successful. You should be able to fill in on that page 7 in the lab where the results successful. You should be able to say yes. And when you do these on the real PCs, if it's on a real PC or a virtual PC, there's a firewall function that's typically turned on by default, and you might have to turn off that firewall. If you come in and do this in the real lab on Wednesdays in SBS 1125, the very first time that you use that PC, it might have the firewall turned on by default, but I can help you get that turned off. Okay, good deal. That worked properly. And so if you're doing this remotely, if you choose to do this remotely with a packet tracer at home, open up a copy of that lab report that was in the My TCC Blackboard student lab printout section and edit it and put your answer there for that question on page 7, and then save the file and send that to me via email so I know that you did the lab. Okay, there we go. And that's it for this time, and we'll see you next time.